federal troops or troops would be authorized to come to the southwestern border to secure it and to tame what President Trump calls an invasion at the southern border. What we know so far is that 1,500 Marines and soldiers have received their orders to come out to the border, and what they're primarily going to be doing, at least initially, is to help Customs and Border Protection agents secure by putting down some concertina wire to buttress the borders or the barriers here at the border wall. There are a number of areas where people are able to sort of circumvent the wall. This is a very rugged terrain here. So there are areas of the wall that sort of just end and give way to the landscape. And so the idea is, again, to sort of plug some of those potential holes where illegal entries have been taking place.
All right, so as to those entries, we also understand that the Trump administration planned to use the Department of Defense bases to hold migrants who are awaiting deportation. What can you tell us about the plans to hold those who are detained?
Right, so that was also mentioned in the internal memo that we obtained. There are also plans potentially to have the agents assist in the detention of some of those migrants, but we do know that the DoD is going to have a very limited purview in terms of what else they can do. There is long-standing federal law that prevents these troops from being able to engage in the enforcement of some of these federal laws. That could, of course, change with an executive order.
Adam Yamaguchi, thank you so much for that live report there at the California-Mexico border. And I just have to use this opportunity, speaking about a whole other story. You know, we're following California wildfires, and we often talk about the wind. You can hear the wind in your report. So for people watching at home there at the border, and you're thinking about California and the firefighters, you're also on a whole other note and a whole other topic, seeing how strong those winds are in California for firefighters as well. Just another object where stories intersect there. Adam Yamaguchi, thank you so much for that. Hey, we have some breaking news out of our nation's capital as it relates to Pete Hegseth. Moments ago, a break in the ranks, so to speak. Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski says she will vote no for Pete Hegseth as defense secretary. We've got her statement here. It says in part, and here it is on your screen, I remain concerned about the message that confirming Mr. Hegseth sends to women currently serving and those aspiring to join. Women have served our nation with distinction, overcoming immense obstacles to excel in combat and leadership roles, and they, she says, deserve to know that their leader honors and values their commitment to our nation. Close quote. Senator Murkowski saying she's a no vote, a no-go for Pete Hegseth as defense secretary. Of course, we are watching reaction from the Trump administration and from Capitol Hill. Keep in mind, the margins just got a lot thinner for Pete Hegseth, and we're going to start to look at that math and see what it spells out for his future in that very important role, leading many, many of our nation's finest. We'll be back in just a minute.
Politics isn't a game. The data says you do have a women problem. Politics is about policy.
Isn't that giving people false hope?
I'm a voracious consumer of information, and I'm impatient. I don't like to be spun. To be moderator of Face the Nation is not an anchor, it's not an actress. You are up here to moderate a conversation. That means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed.
The justices ruled that Harvard and the University of North Carolina violated the Constitution.
In the aftermath of the Supreme Court decision to end affirmative action in college admissions, uncertainty sets in for some students of color.
Affirmative action really gave us an equal opportunity.
CBS Reports explores the historic decision and what it means for those chasing an opportunity to change their lives.
I knew that college was the ticket to break this cycle.
The end of affirmative action, now streaming on the free CBS News app. An original documentary from CBS Reports. Tensions rising between a powerful country and a vital island.
The supply of this technology came grinding to a halt. The world would grind to a halt.
Absolutely.
As Taiwan faces threats and aggression,
Taiwan is on the front line, and we understand our responsibility as a democracy. We cannot fall.
CBS News examines whether they can defend themselves.
Putin, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, there are manifestations of the battle between autocracy and democracy. And that is a fight that we're all engaged in.
Defending Taiwan, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
We are emergency. We are depressurized.
How could this have happened?
It's still happening right now.
Meet the Boeing whistleblowers who believe they know how.
They're fighting for faulty parts?
Yeah, and good parts. They're not too picky.
Wow.
It's time for a 60 Minutes investigation.
Sunday morning, the miracle of Paris's Notre Dame, plus actor Daniel Craig and Billie Eilish, 22 but already a legend. Listen for the trumpet.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
It was almost like being face-to-face with the devil.
Women riding bicycles dismembered.
She just vanished.
48 hours reports.
I fought and fought.
911, what is your emergency?
She disappeared off the face of the earth.
Ever think in your wildest dreams someone might want to kill you?
This almost became a game of psychological warfare.
You're caught. You're gonna go down.
Stream 48 hours, 24/7.
Well, as we laid out today, so we moved for a temporary restraining order, which has a nationwide impact. The next step will be a preliminary injunction, which will allow for more thorough briefing. The TRO that was issued today has a 14-day effective date. So for 14 days, the United States government can take no further action implementing or enforcing this order. Well, we will be back in court, as will many other people across the country.
Attorney General, can you talk about, because this order would expire before well, according to the government, before the executive order would actually take effect, why was this needed now? What are the immediate harms that are happening today?
Well, there are two principally for the states. I mean, the states would have to start working on the potential impact of that effective date now. You can't simply wait for 30 days to prepare for all of the changes that would happen to state government to recreate and re-implement these systems that are having dire financial and administrative impact on the states. But more broadly, this is about people. This is about people who the President of the United States was trying to deny their lawful right to be citizens. And babies are being born today, tomorrow, every day, all across this country. And so we had to act now to provide back to the status quo, back what has been the law of the land for generations, that you are an American citizen if you were born on American soil, period. Nothing that the President can do will change that.
And that was the argument that just went inside that federal courtroom in Seattle from one of many attorneys general, that one from Washington State. Once again, temporary restraining order signed blocking President Donald Trump's executive order as it pertains to birthright citizenship. But let's bring our guest right back in. Immigration attorney Margaret Stock. Margaret, you called this one. You said that this is what would happen. But I have to really zero in. The word temporary on that restraining order. What makes it not temporary, and what kind of a timeline are they facing now?
Well, this is normal. You always get 14 days on a TRO, temporary restraining order, and now they're going to get an injunction, probably a temporary injunction, and then they'll get a permanent injunction. As the judge called it, it's a blatantly unconstitutional executive order. The president has no power to change the Constitution. He knows that. It's surprising to me that a couple minutes after he took an oath to uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States, he decided to issue an unconstitutional EO. But, this is what he promised people he would do. So I guess, the judge had to do the judge's job and issue a TRO. That's how things work in America. We go to the courts and we get them enjoined. And just as a note, the first Trump administration, this was standard practice that he would issue on illegal orders and people would have to go into court and get injunctions. So it's just a repeat of the first term.
All right, and arguably the first defeat where his executive orders are concerned. So do you have any sense that he is going to make an argument to change the 14th Amendment to the Constitution? This is somebody who doesn't like to be told no.
Well, he thinks he can interpret the Constitution and change the meaning of the Constitution with an executive order. And we've never had that in America. Presidents don't have that power. That would make him a king instead of a president. He's supposed to faithfully execute the Constitution and the laws, not throw them out with executive orders. So, it puzzles me that his staff would go along with this and let him do it. But, hey, that's the way things are apparently today.
To our viewers who are just logging on, we're having a conversation about what happened inside that federal courtroom in Seattle. A judge signing a temporary restraining order against President Donald Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship. That judge saying this is blatantly unconstitutional, and then walking out of the court said, "It just boggles my mind." CBS News 24/7 will continue following these developments. Let's keep in mind that this loss is happening while the president is now sending 1,500 troops to the U.S.-Mexico border. Much more on these developments on CBS News 24/7.
CBS Mornings Plus, clearly more news, more smart conversation.
More money-saving tips, more recipes.
More uplifting ways to get you on your way.
Plus, more sports, more weather.
Clearly, more CBS Mornings.
Plus,
sunshine is
Washington is the seat of power. National security, foreign policy, global economics, every story comes through Washington in some way. We bring some of the most powerful voices in America to the table. We don't just ask the questions, you have to go deeper. We try to understand what's at the heart of the issue we're talking about, to then come forward with solutions.
Face the Nation on CBS.
I have a dorky look to me. I don't look like a criminal at all.
60 Minutes has reported on fraudsters, criminals, and hoodlums. But what this minor league thief was able to do surprised even us.
These are Yogi Berra's World Series rings.
A sports story you'll have to see to believe.
Need more time with 48 Hours? Go deep behind every true crime episode with first-hand accounts from 48 Hours Investigations.
Were you at all prepared for what happened in this case?
Shock is the word that comes to mind.
Get inside the twists and turns and get in on the case. Listen to Postmortem from 48 Hours, now available wherever you get your podcasts.
I think we're very cute.
Yeah, I think we need to send out a Christmas card like this.
Yeah, let's do that.
Dollar Jill.
If you can't get into the market, it's okay. Renting is fine.
I wonder how Serena is feeling.
That's a really good question. No one's asked me that yet.
You're 70 years old? 70, yeah. I'm 21.
We'll see you 7 o'clock sharp.
Sunday morning, the Music Man, T-Bone Burnett, plus Ted Danson and Martha Stewart with Just the Recipe. Listen for the trumpet.
I report from a lot of war zones, but I don't really take the same risks.
He's one of the bravest war correspondents 60 Minutes has ever met. But it's his relationship with his mother that you will remember. Plus, the robots making marble masterpieces in Italy.
As a kid growing up in Chicago, there was one horror movie I was too scared to watch. It was called Candyman. But did you know that the movie Candyman was partly inspired by an actual murder? Listen to Candyman, the true story behind the bathroom mirror murder, wherever you get your podcasts.
The CBS News original 60 Minutes opens its archives.
Pretty loose for a Friday night.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not my first show.
With moments you haven't heard before.
It's almost more fun that way when you have something to prove.
Listen to 60 Minutes, a second look, wherever you get your podcasts. What happens when the world's best journalists come together?
Write a prescription for the healing of America.
You get the stories of America every night. You get the all-new CBS Evening News.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on CBS News 24/7. I'm Lindsay Reiser. Here's a look at the top stories we're following right now. We're following breaking news from federal court where a judge has agreed to temporarily block President Trump's plan to end birthright citizenship. A massive new wildfire erupts in Southern California with the potential for badly needed rain still days away. And some sunlight at the end of the tunnel for more than 250 million Americans enduring dangerous cold and snowy conditions. A federal judge in Seattle has temporarily blocked President Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship in the United States, calling the order, quote, blatantly unconstitutional. It's the first formal legal challenge to one of the executive actions Trump took in his first 4 days in office. The attorneys general in Washington, Oregon, Arizona, and Illinois filed a joint suit against the order. At least 18 other states across the country are also challenging the legality of the order. Washington State Attorney General Nick Brown discussed today's decision.
That we will not shy away from taking action against illegal actions by the President of the United States or anyone else. This is step one. We have a long way to go. There are many other orders that are being issued by the President that will have potential impacts on people. But we are really relieved, frankly, that at least this court has seen the blatant unconstitutional action of this president. And now we're back to the status quo. We're back to the rule that has been the law of this land now for generations, that you are an American if you were born in the United States. Thank you very much, everyone.
President Trump and his allies argue that birthright citizenship creates an incentive for people to come to the U.S. illegally in order to give birth. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment reads, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to their jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News political reporter Olivia Rinaldi. Olivia, this effort to end birthright citizenship will clearly be a lengthy legal process. This is just a temporary block. Is the Trump administration responding yet to these hurdles or to today's decision?
Yeah, Lindsay, it's good to be with you. We have not heard yet from the Trump administration, but I would expect that they are going to fight to get this executive order that Trump has put forth passed and put into law, especially banning birthright citizenship. Of course, that's something that's in the Constitution. You heard the judge when they delivered that temporary order saying that there has never been another case where the question presented is as clear as this one, going on to say this is a blatantly unconstitutional order. But what we're starting to see here is really the beginning of the resistance from attorney generals across Democratic states in the U.S. pushing back against Trump's executive orders. You heard there from the Washington attorney general that this is just the beginning. They're planning to keep fighting not only this executive order, but several others as well.
Let's also talk about the border. Thousands of active duty troops are being deployed there. What more do we know about the White House's directive for what they'll be doing?
Yeah, we know that some of those active duty troops are just starting to make their way to the border. Some of them already there. There are about 1,500 that will be there. About 1,000 of them are Army personnel, 500 are Marines, and some of those Marines were actually over in California fighting some of those wildfires that we've been tracking over the last several weeks. So notable there that they're being pulled to now go down to the southern border and take part in what they're calling a mission to really limit immigration coming into the U.S. So we know that they'll be there to help build some temporary physical barriers to prevent people from coming over the border. But there is also going to be airlift support missions that the military is taking part in. Now, what this is supposed to do is to help deport some of those migrants that are in custody by Customs and Border Patrol. So they'll be assisting in that. Quite major news that we heard yesterday about the military coming down here. And our own Camilo Montoyo Galvez even reporting that as many as 10,000 troops could be heading down to the southern border. So this is just the start of this. A lot more news on this, I'm sure, in the coming months.
We heard from the president speak virtually at the World Economic Forum in Davos today. It's the first time in his second term Trump has made remarks to an international audience. What was his message, and how did he set the tone for his next 4 years in office?
Well, Trump speaking to world leaders today for that first time of his second administration. But he said his message, at least on economics, was pretty clear. Either come to the U.S. and make your products here and enjoy low taxes, or pay a tariff. So that was his messaging today to the members of Davos who were there, but also talking about the war in Ukraine, asking NATO members to increase their GDP spending on the military to about 5%, something he had talked about in his first administration as well. So bringing back a lot of the typical Trump brass that we saw in that first administration, levying tariffs, asking NATO to contribute more to their own defenses in this messaging that he gave today in Switzerland.
The president also spoke with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman as his first call with a foreign leader since taking office. How significant is it that this was his first foreign interaction of his second term, and what did they discuss?
Yeah, it is quite notable. We know during Trump's first administration, his first international trip was to Saudi Arabia. That was a significant showing there that he values that relationship. He values the U.S. relationship with Saudi Arabia, wants to lean into it a little bit more. So the fact that this was his first phone call was quite notable in that sense. Of course, you know, during the Biden administration, there wasn't exactly an embrace of Saudi Arabia. Biden had struggled really with that relationship, whether even to shake his hand when he visited Saudi Arabia. So notable there that Trump is making that phone call. He said of it that Mohammed bin Salman is a, quote, fantastic guy. And he talked about the Saudi plans to invest about $600 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years, Trump quipping that he would like to see that be up to $1 trillion. And he's going to ask for that. He even said earlier this week that perhaps he would mimic what he did in his first administration and make Saudi Arabia his first international trip of this second administration. So a lot we will be following to see whether Trump follows through on that promise, Lindsay.
Olivia Rinaldi, thank you. Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski says she will not support Pete Hegseth as Trump's pick to lead the Department of Defense. It makes her the first Republican to oppose the president's nominee, but more would need to fall in line with Murkowski in order to truly jeopardize his confirmation, rather. A procedural vote is happening on Capitol Hill today over his confirmation and nomination. The former Fox News host has faced a slew of allegations, including sexual assault and harassment, financial misconduct, and drinking on the job. If the vote goes well for him, a final vote would likely take place tomorrow. There are several confirmation hearings for President Trump's cabinet picks continuing on Capitol Hill today. The Senate Veterans Affairs Committee voted in favor of Douglas Collins taking over as its next secretary. The Environment and Public Works Committee advanced Lee Zeldin's nomination to become the next EPA administrator, and the Banking Committee pushed forward Scott Turner as Trump's pick for Secretary of Housing and Urban Development.